It's Glenn Trebor. I served in Chile 1 from 1961 to 1963. I set up and taught a rural school for mechanics and engine rebuilding, and my partner taught agriculture machinery repair and use. After 50 years, I am still in contact with one of my students who I see almost every year, and it's been a real thrill because I'm one of the lucky ones who understood that I really did make an impact.
I'm Carol Meyer. I was in the Peace Corps from 1962 to 1964. We lived in San Gregorio, a wonderful suburb of Santiago, Chile. We were with the YWCA Community Development Project. So why don't we hear from my husband Richard, who's still with me.
Hi, I'm Dick Meyer, obviously the same project. We were married just a few months before we went into the Peace Corps. We worked together in San Gregorio on various kinds of programs for the particularly mothers and children. We were working out of the famous egg house, which was a little concrete egg-shaped building that was there for the community development work for the YWCA. And one of the episodes that I remember is we were putting together a buying club, and we ordered a truckload of charcoal. And I remember that truck pulled in with charcoal piled all over the place, and we wondered, what on earth are we going to do with it?
I just want to recall one thing that's come up over and over again about our time in San Gregorio, and that is that I was kind of ill with the flu one day, but went to do a sewing class with a mother's club, and everyone came to tell me the sad news that President Kennedy had been shot. And then we went home to our apartment, and for that day and the next few days, everybody was coming to visit us, our neighbors and other people that we worked with, to pay their condolences. And we were quite moved by all this attention, and also in a little bit of shock over the reality of it all. But that was kind of a memory that we've revisited many times over the years.
Okay, my name is Bill Peters. I was in Chile 4, which is 1963 to 1965. I lived in Copiapó in the north in the desert, and then I moved to Santiago, where I was developing community centers, schools, and children's clubs. And it was a great experience.
Okay, my name is Gage Skinner. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Chile, South America. Basically worked in a small community called Lumaco, which was a Mayeco province in the southern area, Temuco.
In what years?
1964 to 1966. And I worked in beekeeping and reforestation and a number of other projects, primarily with Mapuche Indians. The people, the Indians, loved honey, but they had no source of sweets other than the wild honey colonies that they could find, and they weren't very adept at managing or handling bees. They didn't really know apiculture or bee culture. So I introduced them to the whole concept of what it's like to establish and manage a beehive. And of course, the first experience we had when I called everyone together and opened up the beehive, the bees came out and started attacking the people. So everybody scattered and were being stung, and it took quite a few days after that to regain their confidence and have them come back.
My name is Susan Selvin, volunteer, regular Peace Corps volunteer in Chile, 1966-67. UN volunteer, which is through Peace Corps, Liberia, 1982-83. Peace Corps response, 2009-10. So I just, in March, was back in Chile. I've been going back every 5 to 8 years. And this time the biggest building in town that we built in my project, which the municipality has upgraded, had a big dinner dance for me and was given a plaque by the mayor and all the moms who were now grandmoms, real great-great-grandmas. We had a wonderful time.
I'm sorry, my name is Robert Stein.
Okay.
I was in Chile from 1966, 1968, although what I really learned to like in a way to converse with people, get to know people, was mate, which is...
oh, I've heard of that, like a tea or something?
Yeah, it's a tea, it's an herb tea. You drink it with this, it's like a straw, but it's not, and you pass it around, and you put water and you pass it around, and of course you should be a little bit worried about sanitation, but you can't really, when you're in a close-knit group, say wash my straw off, or so. But I remember with friends doing that, and would eat baked potatoes with butter and mate, and I just but that was a way to break the ice with a lot of people. And when they saw you drinking mate, even, I think almost more so than the drinking of the wine, because you could do this. The wine generally was more with the men, but the mate, was something you could, with both the women and men. And then there was this hillside which had originally been forested, but the trees had all been cut down. That was sort of one of the sad things that I noticed so much, deforestation. So months later, when I got to know the leaders of the Poblacion, and I drank plenty of mate with them, I suggested, why don't we see if we can't buy saplings and reforest the hillside, and that would prevent the erosion. And and I said, I'll talk to the government officials and see if we can't get there's a government nursery, trees, and maybe then I can get a truck and transport it. And do you think you can organize on a weekend, the people here, and we'll plant them? And it was very easy to convince the people who lived because in that squatter village to do it. I had a much harder time with the bureaucracy because the bureaucrats thought I was crazy, and then I finally got the trees, but then how do I get that to get somebody else to get the truck? Anyway, did all this. We had one of the rare nice days. We planted the trees on the hillside. Everybody participated. It was sort of a celebration, but at least I felt very good about it. I came back about 2 weeks later. Not a tree was left. So I was...
About how many did you plant?
Probably a couple of hundred. I mean, it was not it's not a huge, but it was...
And so what happened to them?
Well, then I went down, and I to express my disappointment, and I noticed that a lot of the trees had been planted behind individual houses.
Interesting.
So it was not totally lost. I got involved with Amnesty International, working to help political prisoners, and also when the first of the very few Chilean political refugees were allowed to come into the United States, I worked locally in Stanford and New York to try to provide some resettlement support for these refugees. And my wife was a political refugee, so I met her there. She came in '76, we became friends, and then ultimately married and been married ever since.
Very good.
So I've been, in recent years, over the last probably 10 or 15 years, been down, if not every year, every other year, but I'm hoping to retire the end of this year and then be able to spend more time.
Wow.